there's a bit of a speed to lead crisis out there for a lot of people. If you are an owner and you don't have less than a 5-minute response time or system running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're literally throwing good leads or good opportunities straight into the garbage.
As high as 41% of jobs that are booked online in the home improvement industry come in after hours. And 97% of homeowners, they go with kind of the first person that calls them back. And
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson show. As usual, I'm Fitz.
and I'm Franson.
This is a show where we talk about leadership, business growth, and some of those hard decisions that it takes to, make a business grow and last.
Yeah. If you want sales coaching or training for your team, book a call with Fitz at the link below in the show notes.
We'll talk about some good stuff today. If the conversation hits a little close to home, I'd recommend you reach out to us at Powerful here, powerful.com. We'd be happy to help audit your process and identify any of the areas of opportunity that we're going to discuss throughout our today's episode. So Jay, let's dive into it. We are hearing a lot about leaders out there that might be struggling a little bit with the concept we're going to talk about today. Some of those guys out there are spending 10, 20, maybe even $50,000 a month or more on marketing across their company in multiple locations even. And the leads are coming in. The phone might be ringing or email box filling up, but the close rate is dropping, right? And the reps are complaining. Not that they do that often, but they do occasionally. Yeah, but they're complaining the leads are cold and the costs per acquisition keeps creeping up.
Yeah, and here's something that we see quite a bit, and nobody really wants to hear it, to be honest. But we've done our own internal research, and there's a lot of research out there as well that shows that as high as 41% of jobs that are booked online in the home improvement industry come in after hours, actually. And so when your office is closed and your staff is at home, what are you doing? 97% of homeowners, another true stat, they say they go with kind of the first person that calls them back. And so two big numbers there that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. So today we're going to talk about the kind of that famous phrase in our industry, speed to lead, right? And unfortunately, I think there's a bit of a speed to lead crisis that might be out there for a lot of people. So if you are an owner, whether it's one location or multiple locations, and you don't have less than a 5-minute response time or system running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're literally throwing good leads or good opportunities straight into the garbage, right? And so we're going to hopefully tell you exactly, how to fix that today.
Yeah. And it can be fixed. So if it's the average cost per lead in the space that we're in, the home remodeling, home improvement space right now is not cheap. And it is important that you handle every single one with care. And we're seeing lead costs, anywhere from $100, up to $250 just per lead. So we see this pretty regularly across the country with our customers. And so we'll have somebody call us and say, hey, Jay, our cost per lead is just too high. We need to cut ad spend. And so, oftentimes I go into discovery mode and I'm like, well, let's ask a few questions before we just assume that the marketer is the enemy, right?
Yeah.
So we pull up, their CRM data, and then we figure out that the leads we're sending them, the book rate is like, sometime in the next day. The web lead form speed to lead is 14 hours. That's not speed.
It's probably the opposite, right? So 14 hours is it's not something we haven't heard before, but I can't sugarcoat it. Like that's crazy, right? That's way too long. Look, in 2026, if you are taking that long, if you're taking 14 hours to call a homeowner back about, let's say, a roof replacement or concrete coating, job, they've already they've already booked an appointment with probably at least 2, if not 3 of your competitors.
Yeah.
In fact, they may have even already run one of those appointments in that 14-hour span. And the way the data breaks down, there's a good chance they bought from that person before you've ever picked up the phone to call them back. So if you're waiting 14 hours, that's just crazy.
Yeah. And the tension here is that, and I, in their defense, a lot of our customers, they do know better. But they're running 2026 marketing budgets with a 2016 operational system. There's some websites I see that, they think the contact us form that routes to a general inbox and gets checked twice a day is an acceptable lead capture process. And it's just not. It just isn't anymore.
Yeah. I think too in the conversations we have, I think that the worst part is too that they end up blaming, the marketing agency, whichever one it might be that they're working with at that time, right? That, we hear it all the time, right? The leads are garbage, they stink, right? The agency doesn't understand our market, right? Meanwhile, they got leads that are just sitting in an inbox for half a day while that homeowner is already on the phone with the next company, or, the next company that was just below them or even above them on a Google search result page.
Yeah. And, we've got stories internally where, we'll be ready to book an appointment and we reach out to the customer, the question about maybe surface condition. Hey, would you like to go see this, or maybe service area? And if our customers don't get back to us within minutes, they come back the next day and they're like, oh, sorry, I missed this. And then we reach back out and the customer comes back to us and says, I already got it done. I mean,
Yeah,
and this is not an exaggeration. Some of them get it done like the same day
for sure.
because they moved on to the next guy and that guy had an opening and they're like, "Oh, can you be here tomorrow?" Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it definitely is something that happens. And this problem can kind of compound dramatically for more complex operations like, multiple locations, multiple salespeople, multiple in-house reps. You might have, say location A with the manager, guy is on top of it. Understands it, probably fits running on location A, calls every lead within minutes, seconds, even tight morning routine. And then you've got that second location or that second manager that's like, yeah, well, we'll reach out to them by the end of the day for sure. And so you're looking at kind of two different types of marketing reports, and these can quickly hide the fact that location B is essentially hemorrhaging money.
Yeah. 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 I've been known to maybe crack the whip on the speed to lead thing. So I appreciate the shout out there for sure.
Yep.
But all right. So look, I think in our conversation, Jay, this will be like my hot take for the week. And, as a listener, maybe sit with this for just a second, right? Stop firing your marketing agency because your follow up game is trash, right? Your response rate is trash.
Yep.
Right? In many cases, what we end up seeing is you don't have a lead quality problem, right? Not maybe fully, right? What you end up having is really what I would call like an operational laziness problem. And the sooner you can own that, the sooner you got an opportunity to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely on board with that. And like we talked about earlier, data backs it up completely.
Mm.
Businesses that implement, proper systems, conversion tracking, proper call tracking, and then they have a plan for immediate follow up, they see as much as a 20% reduction in their effective cost per lead. Not because the leads got cheaper. We all know that they're not getting cheaper, but because they actually convert the leads that they're already buying.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I know when we implemented this stuff and really started talking about it, we saw big increases in what was already being put into our system. But I think Jay, here's probably the really damaging piece of this too that maybe doesn't get recognized at first, but as it gets going, like you start to feel it later on down the road when you are waiting that long to get somebody on the phone, right? And really the data says like we referenced 14 hours earlier, it's 30 minutes. If it goes outside of that 5 minute window, every minute that clicks off that clock, you're losing your opportunity, right? When you wait that long, the only ones that you are getting on the phone at that point truly are probably those tire kickers. The other ones who are left over, right? It's the leftover leads from everybody else.
Yeah.
So you end up with an actual lower quality sales appointment that gets put on the board. And at the
Yeah.
end of that, a very pissed off sales team.
Yep.
And they should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you and I like to track things. We like data. We like knowing our numbers. And when you start tracking those, I've had plenty of conversations with owners where they end up saying, I had no idea it was this bad. And it's because nobody was measuring it.
Yeah.
Nobody on their team had a standard that they were measuring results against.
Yeah, I think which is why this is really kind of truly a leadership
Yeah.
problem, not a marketing problem. It's easy to blame marketing because they're the ones that gave you the names and phone numbers, but we got to really look ourselves in the mirror on this kind of thing. So you have to set like that non-negotiable speed to lead standard. Less than 5 minutes should be a very easy thing to accomplish or an easy thing to wrap your head around. And it needs to be enforced the same way you enforce, like, for example, on the sales side, you enforce close rate, right? Or, done and paid on your install side. This is the exact same kind of KPI. Yep.
There's lots of tools out there and lots of knowledgeable people out there with ways to track this down and get a system in place that does it right. So, Fitz, I got to ask you maybe something a little bit more personal. When you were running larger scale sales and marketing in a previous life, I'm sure you've heard at this point most excuses in the book. But what was one of your more ridiculous excuses you've heard from a rep about why they didn't call a lead right away?
Yeah, there's some really crazy ones that I feel like if I were to share, people would know I'm calling them out specifically. But, I've
Yeah,
heard them all for sure. And I've heard them all from, people we work with too, right? Well, we don't want to look desperate, right? If that's one that comes up regularly, it's like, okay, that doesn't make much sense, right? Or won't we look like we aren't busy if we're just sitting here waiting for, the opportunity to call somebody? Then there's always like, well, the system takes too long to get through, right? Like the things we have to enter data into or whatever it might be. Truthfully, at the end of the day, they're really just excuses. And every one of those excuses is really, when you start to dig into it, it's really a lack of understanding or even appreciation of the importance of getting to them quickly, right? The reps that, that I had that worked for us, I don't think they really understood in their defense. They had never been shown that every second that went by was actually costing dollars and cents for the company. But more importantly, like relating it back to them, it was costing them bonus opportunity, right? You want to make more money. It's there. Get
yeah.
to it faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a employee that worked for me a while ago and just that I wasn't seeing the effort and we'd had a couple of conversations. And at one point they said to me, this is almost a direct quote. They said, "Jay, the work will always be there." And I was like, "Oh gosh." I kind of knew, but I needed to hear that because I was like,
Yeah.
you're not wrapping your head around the importance of this. And so it was shortly after that that we
Probably
started
shouldn't
looking
say
for
that to
someone
your
else.
boss.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a generation that thinks that's that way.
Yeah.
We won't
Yeah,
go
for
there,
sure.
but
Right.
so, it is a big problem to solve in a lot of companies. And so when we're talking about solutions, what do you do to solve something like this?
So, I mean, I can tell you what we did, right? And I think it's not kind of earth shattering, but we implemented, rules and systems. We did it like that day we discovered the issue, not tomorrow, not next week. Like anything is better than what we're doing right now. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be different and better.
Yeah.
So, that system that we implemented has, it was designed to like enact like the next man up type like mindset or policy. So if the phone rings more than twice, the system should automatically send it to a different person, or you're empowered to pick up that phone because it is a customer waiting to be, talked to. If it sat in an inbox for longer than 2 minutes, it forwards it automatically to the next person.
That's good.
It's someone else's, it becomes somebody else's lead or somebody else's opportunity if you're not getting to it quickly. There is no exceptions, no explanations. And what's, interesting about it is it's not slowly but surely, it's suddenly everyone figured out, how to dial faster and answer quicker. It's really kind of funny how that thing seems to work when you start putting the emphasis on it. When there's a consequence for behavior, right, then the behavior itself will change.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that, a lot of our companies across the country, they're filled with really good people.
Hmm.
It isn't a matter of, they're just lazy. In a lot of cases, they were never given a clear standard.
Hmm.
I worked at a job years ago where there was virtually no training. And I asked the dumb question of, well, how do I know if I'm doing it wrong? And they said, you'll get yelled at. I was like, that's the training. Like,
Sure.
and it really was that way. I would go out and do my job and somebody'd be like, what the heck's your problem? Why are you doing that way? And I'm like, nobody told me. So in these cases, like what we're talking now with speed to lead, when you're able to set that standard and enforce it, most people are pretty agreeable. They're like, oh, now I know what winning looks like. So the
Mhm.
reframe here really is shifting your entire mental model from, we just market to generate leads to we're really marketing to generate conversations.
Mm.
And operations has to facilitate that conversation immediately. And the moment the lead comes in is the moment of maximum intent, and we've talked about this on other episodes too. That is the like best time that the customer is most likely to say yes.
Mhm.
So that home, they're ready to talk right now. Every minute that passes, their intent drops quickly.
For sure. For sure. And I think, if you're really listening to that and really understanding it, that what that should mean to you is that you need a 24/7 strategy, right? Because I mean, people are scrolling at all hours of the day, and it's not just faster response during business hours, right? It's in those hours late in the evening. You know, I think we talked about it earlier, or we definitely talked about it on other, episodes, right? If 41% of the jobs that are booked in this industry are done when your office is closed, what is your system set up for, to handle that 41%? Are you using like an AI receptionist, an answering service, an automated text sequence that books them, directly into your calendar? You have to have something that captures them when they're there on your pages, on your ads, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, and I think some people get maybe a little bit hesitant to take action on this because they think it's complicated, and it really isn't. You have a lead come in at 9 p.m. on a Saturday, they should immediately be pinged. Get a text message that says something like, "Hey, received your request. Our team is out right now, but you can grab a spot on our calendar, for Monday morning right here," and share that link. And
Mhm.
then they book themselves, and you wake up Monday morning with appointments on your calendar that you effectively didn't, have to put any effort into.
Wouldn't that be nice if that was just the way it worked for everything, right? But
Yeah. Right.
it's, you got to have layers of it for sure. There's no doubt. You know, we were fortunate enough to run a multi-location, operation. So for those that are out there that are doing this, I think this is even more powerful because
Mhm.
you end up with the ability to have kind of one centralized after hours system that routes to the correct location based off of zip code. And you don't need each branch to have like an on, a person on call or a team on call on Saturday night, for example, right? You build a system once and it works everywhere.
Yeah. And that's, a big difference between an operator and a business owner. An operator or, owner operator, they're just always on call,
Hmm.
looking at their phone all hours of the day and the night. And a business owner understands that building those systems that can work without them is kind of where that next level is unlocked.
For sure. Yeah. You got to be able to breathe a little bit every now and again, right? So,
Yep.
all right. So Jay, let's maybe give some, we like to try to give some concrete, options here or scenarios that can help with this stuff too. So it's not all doom and gloom, right? There are ways out of this. Here are four things that, we believe you need to do this week to stop the bleeding if you're in these scenarios, right? So
Yeah.
step one for us would be audit your speed to lead immediately, right? Go into your CRM, pull the average response time for leads over the last, let's say 30 days
Yep.
and break it down by source. That's also a big thing that you need to look at, like which ones need to be contacted faster. They might be different, right? If you don't have this data rather, this is for sure step zero. Find
Yep.
a way to get it. You need a CRM that tracks that stuff.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, definitely. And then step two, implement an immediate automated text response for all inbound leads. Even if it just says, "We receive your information, we'll call you in the next few minutes."
Mhm.
You have to acknowledge them instantly. And that text alone can effectively keep that lead warm while somebody on your team is making time for them.
It goes a long way. It keeps them engaged like a fish on the hook, right? You might not get all the way in a boat yet, but you got to, keep them on the hook. So, all right. Step three, set a non-negotiable response standard, right? I don't, not put it on the wall, stitch it on a pillow. I don't care what you got to do. Put it in writing somewhere, somehow, right? Train your team on it, enforce it. If a rep misses the window, coach them up. If they miss it again, there's a consequence, right? Not a lecture, a consequence.
Yeah, that's good. Step four, build an after hours booking system or hire someone, hint, hint, and stop letting those 41% of your potential revenue go to voicemail. Give them a way to book an appointment without talking to a human if necessary. There's a lot of pretty painless ways to get stuff set up. And a lot of them are even built in. I know a lot of our customers use Builder Prime and they use other tools with built-in automated um, messaging that they can use, emails and text. So it's not expensive. It's a calendar link, an automated text. You can set it up this week. So really, your marketing is really only as good as your responses. And you can have the best ads in your market and still lose to the guy with mediocre ads who calls back in 2 seconds.
Be there and be available for your customers, right? You've heard me say this before, Jay, but I believe all the customers in our world are procrastinators. I'm a homeowner. I put off the projects just like anybody else. That's the highest level of motivation they've ever had to do something about the thing they're clicking on. So you got to get to them while they're at that peak. So look, a lot of good stuff here, Jay. A lot of good takeaways, hopefully for our listeners, and great conversation for sure.
Yeah. And for those of you that watch us, what the heck is on Fitz's hat? You guys should throw in a
Come on, man.
comment. What is that, Fitz?
It's the
So,
bridge here in Richmond over the James, brother. It's the squirrel's alter ego uniforms, man.
that's good. All right. Hopefully, you guys took some good stuff away from this. Some action items to take back into the office and improve the way your business is run. And if you felt this was helpful, as always, we just always appreciate an assist. Like, subscribe, hit the share button, send it to your buddy that complains about his marketing agency, and be like, "Hey, dude, are you calling the people back?" And also, if you guys need any help with this, don't hesitate to reach out. We've worked in a lot of locations across the country. We've messed with a lot of technology, and we'd love to help out. So, Fitz, always a pleasure.
I was going to say likewise when I thought you were going to say that, but you made fun of my hats. It was a pleasure up until a point, man. But no, just kidding. It was a pleasure, sir. Until next time, everybody, happy hunting.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks for watching. Now get back to work.